Gorman, Area Vice President of Halliburton, Canada, as our guest speaker. A Saskatchewan product who grew up in Mossbank, Prince Albert, and Saskatoon, Mr. Gorman began his career with Halliburton 22 years ago as an offshore LWD engineer with Sperry Drilling. He worked in this role for 9 years, during which he experienced much of Halliburton's world with assignments in many of the Earth's harshest offshore environments. In 1999, he entered the office as a service coordinator with Sperry Drilling and has held increasingly senior management roles within the company since. Prior to his career with Halliburton, he worked as a geologist for Canadian Hunter, performing field and office-based research. As Halliburton's Area Vice President for Canada, John's responsible for managing the company's interests in Canada, including the development of long and short-term objectives, strategies, and fiscal planning. Prior to assuming his current role in January of 2009, Mr. Gorman was Regional Business Development Manager for Halliburton, Canada. Mr. Gorman earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Geology from the University of Saskatchewan. He is a 2005 graduate of Halliburton's President's Leadership Excellence Program and is also a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers. He is a Director and first Vice Chair of the Petroleum Services Association of Canada, and in his role with PSAC, he enjoys representing the industry by participating in many cooperative efforts between service companies, operators, and government agencies. Also, as first Vice Chair of PSAC, he was the chair of the Stars and Spurs Gala fundraising benefiting Stars Air Ambulance in January of 2013. Please join me in giving a warm Regina welcome to Mr. John Gorman.
That all sounds so official. I'm really just a Ryder fan. I'll get this show on the road. Really want to talk around. First off, I want to bring greetings from Halliburton to the B2B. I always find B2B is easier to say than business to business. London Expo. I want to thank the local chamber, John. Margaret has been very helpful, both to me and our local management, Ron Hunter, who's here right now. Have been very instrumental in helping us get settled in Regina. As you heard, my name is John Gorman, not John Gormley. I am not and never will be a radio broadcaster nor an MLA, even though my mother says I have a great voice and face for radio, but my mother's not very nice to me. I want to thank the City of Regina, province of Saskatchewan for welcoming with open arms. While it's never easy to make changes, one thing that's certain in business is change. And a wise man once said, if you're not changing, you're standing still. If you're standing still, you're getting passed. Speaking of change, this province is one that's changing, and I can guarantee it's for the better. Your Premier, Brad Wall, a lot of other provinces wish he was their Premier. That's what the greatest honor you can give anybody is to give them that kind of flattery. And one of his ministers, perhaps with the longest title on earth, the minister responsible for energy and natural resources, tourism, Saskatchewan, trade, and Sask Energy Incorporated, Tim McMillan, he is also likewise coveted by other provinces. As my wife Gio and I told Tim and Allie this summer, we'd actually like Tim and Allie to move back to Allie's home province, and maybe they could straighten some stuff out in that province if you know where Allie's from. Please don't tell Premier Clark that I said that. So as the bio states, I did grow up in Saskatchewan. I was actually born in Northern Ireland, but moved to Mossbank, Saskatchewan as a baby. And everything was green in Mossbank. I don't know if you guys know the Lynn family and the South Country Equipment Group, but everything was always green. My first bike was a John Deere bike. Anybody else have a bike that was a John Deere bike? Nobody? Really? Had a flat rubber in the back. The snowmobile had a John Deere snowmobile. Anyway, yeah, I mean, everything's green in Saskatchewan, so pretty amazing. And yes, went to junior high in Prince Albert, and then junior high and high school in Prince Albert, and then went to University of Saskatchewan where both played a little bit of sports, football and rugby, and tried to go to school in my spare time. I did work in the oil and gas industry in Saskatchewan. I spent a lot of time working north of Lloydminster around the Paradise Hills area, down around Mydale, and then back up a fair bit east of Lloydminster in the Maidstone area as a young MWE and drilling engineer. After that, I did tour around, but no matter where I was always cheering for the riders, and I was always from Saskatchewan, and I think you guys will join me in wishing the riders great luck this year, not only in hosting the Grey Cup, but in winning the darn thing. I went to a presentation with Keon Rambo in Calgary, and he said at the beginning of the year he guaranteed that Calgary, this last year, at the beginning of the year he guaranteed Calgary would be in the Grey Cup, and I said, well, maybe you should have guaranteed you'd win it, but he didn't think that was funny. Anyway, I have to put this fine print up there, and if any of you guys want to buy Halliburton stock, please go and read that first. And it says that I'm not to blame if you buy it. I'm always bullish about the energy industry, so sometimes people might get crazy and go buy our $50-some stock right now. So how does Canada fit into and the North fit into the world of oil and gas? Well, you hear a lot about the challenges facing Canada's energy industry, and understanding this, we need to realize the global nature of what the problem is. Most countries in the world are looking for security of supply. We're looking for security of demand. That's very, very different. We're sitting on an abundance of oil and gas in Canada. Very few countries in the world can say they have more proven reserves than Canada. We're number 5 for gas, we're number 3 for oil, in a country with 35 million people in it. And really, I'm somewhat skeptical about Venezuela's claim to number 1. Like you know who that came from, but Chavez isn't here to defend himself anymore, so I can't even make fun of him anymore. So given that the U.S. and Canada have the combined largest reserves, it's a pretty powerful story in North America. It doesn't surprise us that a lot of the technology necessary to get oil and gas out of the tight oil and shale oil reservoirs come from previously ignored sources, and it's all in North America. While oil remains the dominant fuel in the primary energy mix, natural gas is going to play a very major role in the world's energy needs for at least the next 2.5 decades. We are not going to be running out of oil and gas anytime soon. In fact, we have probably over 100 years of gas and 1,000 years of oil supply in Canada. So this map really shows the distribution of these resources. The bar chart underneath showing where we fit as far as the recoverable shale gas goes. But some key pieces are necessary for us to be able to unlock these resources. And first off is geology. And as a geologist, I can tell you that nothing beats a good reservoir. I mean, if you have a bad reservoir, you can perhaps get some stuff out of it, but it's a lot tougher. So you need to have good geology. Second is economic incentives. And the economic framework has to be favorable for you to develop these. And this is what we seem to be having a hard time with in British Columbia right now by deciding that you want to tax a pipeline, you want to tax a tanker, you want to tax the water, you want to tax the ship. And then it doesn't make any sense because the rest of the world's got a bunch of gas. And if you're going to tax it all to death, then you're not going to sell it out of Canada. So this is where we're having an issue right now. Third, and somewhat related, is a regulatory framework. We have to have an oil and gas development framework that is a win-win situation for both sides of the equation. And finally, we need the infrastructure, and that's where we come in. The equipment, the materials, the talent to work in that infrastructure. And I want to talk a little bit around that. So we have a continued shift to gas. I want to take you, like I said before, I'm very bullish on gas, even if we seem to be sitting on a pile of it here right now. We continue to have historically high levels of gas in storage, and the supply is abundant. The gas prices have actually remained a little bit more resilient than we feared about 12 months ago. We just need to get it out of Canada. We are a supply market right now, and with the lack of demand from the U.S. does not need any of our gas anymore. With the lack of demand in the U.S., we need to get access to tidewater. This is where BC and the East Coast come in. So, how are we responding? Well, as an industry, we're not very well equipped to accommodate a lot of growth outside of North America yet. We currently have about 20% of the worldwide shale gas deposits in North America, but 80% of the horsepower required to take that gas out of the ground. So most of the equipment that we need to take the gas out of the ground is in North America. We haven't done a very good job exporting that technology yet, but nothing solves high prices like high prices. So you know that that's going to start moving around the world, and nothing cures low prices like low prices. So as long as we have low prices in Canada and the US, we're going to see some of that technology and equipment move elsewhere. That's not a threat, it's just economic reality for anybody who appreciates math. But when taken in context with the previous slide, one geography, really just a big super basin, where prices are low, are going to succumb to that mantra. The pricing arbitrage that we see between the international gas and North American gas price will disappear in the next few years. And the arbitrage between US and Canada oil prices will disappear as infrastructure begins to move the product to someone else, that is someone else other than the US. If we look at some key concerns around gas pricing, and I track this every week. We have a great market analyst that works for us who tracks us every week, and when we start seeing big swings in the arbitrage between the price of gas in the US and Canada, we get worried in Canada. We really need about a $4 floor for gas right now. There's a lot of worry that if we are able to export gas, what's going to happen to that $4? It's actually going to go to $6 or $8 or $9. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that the Chinese, the Malaysians, the Japanese, who have really shut down almost every nuclear reactor in their country, can't afford to pay a lot more than that $4 or $5 either, because once you take in transport costs and shipping and cooling and regassing contract pricing, then you're back up to the $15 price that they're already paying at the shores right now. So we need to be able to export our gas, and probably going to stick in that $4 to $5 range, even once we're able to export it, if we could just get people to agree to export it. It's kind of like thinking of the U.S. It wasn't probably 2008 whenever we thought the U.S. is always going to need our gas, it's always going to need our oil, we can sell as much as we want to, and we don't have an issue. But just consider if you had a store, and you're a hardware store, and you only had one customer, and that customer died. What do? You either shut the store, or you go find another customer. You probably should have found another customer prior to your customer dying, is kind of the point of that. But whenever we see this, and the next slide here really shows that the differential to U.S. gas pricing is really the big driver. U.S. like I said, has all the gas it needs, and until we can find our customer, this is not going to get better. I was really worried there in late September, mid-September, whenever the price of gas was actually under $2 in Canada, and it was over $4 in the U.S. I thought, oh my goodness, that was heading down so steeply. I thought, if this doesn't stop, we're going to be in a pile of trouble. So, looking at the oil price side of things, the U.S. actually does have a choice here on where they buy their oil from. So in this case, the customer hasn't died. He's just chosen to spend his dining dollars at some other restaurant. I love that analogy, and Thomas Zarkos from Memories is down here, and he offers great food at reasonable prices, yet sometimes people choose to go across the street somewhere on Victoria Avenue and eat at a different restaurant, even if they might only be around for a year or two. It may cost more to go across that street and get less quality food, but they still choose to do it. And that, to me, is how the U.S. is acting right now. The U.S. is choosing to continue to receive a lot of its foreign import oil from countries that don't even like them, like Venezuela, which another guy I can't even make fun of because he's dead now. But if you look at Libya and Venezuela used to be the people you poke fun at, and you can't poke fun anymore. But when you look at Venezuela, that says as much bad stuff as they can about the U.S. every day, yet the U.S. continues to import oil at about a $30 or $40 premium to Canadian oil, which is actually better oil. They continue to import that into the Gulf Coast. Why are they importing it to the Gulf Coast? Because we can't get a 2-foot piece of pipeline built across the border that would get rid of about 1 million barrels a day out of Canada. Yeah, that's another story. But I work for an American company. I'm not supposed to say anything bad about American politicians, but there's one guy at the top there that's really hurting the oil import side of things from the Canadian perspective. That's all I'm going to say. But we are a resource-based economy, and we're going to have to live with this. We're going to have to live with Canada is always going to have a bit of an arbitrage between the Canadian pricing and U.S. pricing. But we are an export economy, and we have to remember that. I mean, we're resource-based. We export more than we import. But we export. Look in Saskatchewan alone: potash, gold, uranium, trees. Where's the #1 consumer of Crown oil? This is actually, I'm stealing this from Gary Dewar. What's that, sorry? No, it's not actually Manitoba. Texas is actually the world's largest consumer of Crown oil. It'd be easier to build a Crown oil pipeline to Texas than it would be to build the XL pipeline. And Lori, I did actually have the Crown oil at the hotel last night. So if you look at some quick facts just around Halliburton, how Halliburton fits into this whole equation. Halliburton's always growing. We've got around 70,000 employees operating in over 80 countries. We've added a second corporate head office in Dubai to be the center for our Eastern Hemisphere operations. We've diversified our manufacturing and research centers by relocating or opening new facilities around the world. And if you thought everything was designed in North America, it's not. I mean, we have 15 major research centers around the world that are strategically placed so that we can get the technology in the right hands in the shortest amount of time. And as we grow that business model, we help grow those economies in other countries. And just to give you an idea of where we're building some of these that may end up scaring you is in Singapore, Pune, India, Malaysia, Beijing, Saudi Arabia, and in Tehran, and Tewkesbury, which is in the UK. Rio is Brazil's a very difficult place to import-export tools. We have to build a lot of our own down there. But when we do that, we're actually helping those countries get their tools built closer to home and get competitive with North American gas at the same time. So as you can see here around this wheel, of these product lines that Halliburton has on this, we have about 10 of them active in Canada. Most of our PSLs are organically grown every year, but we do a lot of acquisitions that will either supplement the current technology within a product line or add an entire product line, as in the case of Multichem, a chemical company that we added 2 years ago now. Actually, almost exactly 2 years ago. I think it was October 3rd, 2011. A lot of our customers will buy from us, and they'll buy one product line worth of services. But more and more, we see a lot of these customers that will try to find ways to integrate different product lines onto a job, so they can then make a much more efficient operation where we can run similar supervision. It's better coordination and planning. Better science goes into the downhole, and better science on the completion side. So you look at where Halliburton came from. We're almost 100 years old now. Earl P. Halliburton started this company with a keen eye on the cementing side of things, with a horse and buggy, and essentially mixing cement in the back of a buggy. Through the years, we've increased our leadership in the cementing business, but also have leading positions in fracturing and pumping, and are constantly developing and applying industry-changing technology consistently through the years. As you can see on this slide, in 1965, we introduced the Oilfield Services' first computer network system. And long ago, we've been known as a North American-centric company. I've been trying to tell you, we're losing that stigma that's attached to us now. we knew our future was going to be tied to growth. So in the 80s, we started to dramatically grow around a significant international presence. That effort culminated in 2006 when we opened our second corporate headquarters in Dubai. About 50% of our business is now in the Eastern Hemisphere. In the 90s, we kicked off a major acquisition push, acquiring, among others, me in the dresser industries acquisition, which is what was the Sperry Growing Services product line was within that. And then we added a number of other businesses into that. After that move, we then got rid of Kellogg Brown and Root, which is what was kind of giving us the hard time with military contracting, EPC contracting. And it really wasn't part of the Halliburton core business. So now we are purely an upstream business. We don't do EPC construction jobs and big downstream work. So what drives Halliburton every day? There are three strategic market drivers. First being unconventional, second being deep water, and the third being mature fields. Obviously not a lot of deep water in Saskatchewan, so we can kind of skip talking about that too much, but that was my background, and I'll tell you there's nowhere better to learn the business than to essentially be in a floating jail that you have to learn, and you have to become the best at your field, or else you don't stay employed very long. So we invest regardless of the cycle. We have a lot of investors that in 2008, going into 2009, during the massive downturn, were critical of Halliburton's decision to continue to build pumping equipment during the downturn. We saw that it was going to be a short downturn, so we said, okay, whatever else is turning down, we'll take, and we will grow that share. So the following 2 years, in 2010 and 11, were the largest ever growth in Halliburton's history. But we definitely decided that it's in your best interest to manufacture in a downturn. We are an original equipment manufacturer, so it's a little bit different situation as well. I mean, we have to buy a lot of 2,000 horsepower Caterpillar engines, but other than that, we can control the manufacturing business, which is largely based around rolling stock. If you look at Halliburton globally, we have 92% nationalized workforces. In Canada, we're at 99%. Canada is a great development spot for a lot of people in the world. In Halliburton, we have around 2,000 employees that work for the company, but we also have 250 employees that are regularly commuting in and out of Canada to go work elsewhere in the world. I don't know if you guys travel a lot, but any corner of the world I've ever been, under any rock, I've always found a Canadian. Canadians are the best travelers. It's just amazing. We're really happy to be in Saskatchewan. Jordan and Tabitha and Steve, Steve must have gone to his doctor's appointment. He's left, but Jordan and Tabitha really helped us out with supporting the riders this year and getting Halliburton into Regina. It's been a real pleasure to work with the riders. We have about 120 people in Regina. We're trying to grow that to around 250. We currently have three frac crews and 3 coil crews that work out here, but we're going to grow that as much as we can. So if you know somebody looking for a career move, have them talk to Jimmy or Ron. And I know there's nobody out of work in Saskatchewan, so I've found that out. But so if somebody's looking for a career change, let them know that we're hiring. And we also hire ex-riders. So I see Drew's here as well. So yeah. But Eddie Davis, he's a great story. I first met Eddie at a Stampede event in 2010 in Calgary. He was living in Calgary, and his wife actually worked in the building that we're in. And after hearing about his upbringing in St. Louis, go-karts, his days studying mechanical engineering at the University of Northern Illinois, his football days there, his career with the Riders, I just knew we had a great employee. So we interviewed him shortly after that and hired him. And happy to say that this relationship has been mutually beneficial. I mean, he spent about the first year and a half out learning our business from the ground up, and he truly did. I mean, he went and worked in the field for a year and a half in Canada and the U.S., working on frac pumps and cement trucks, directional drilling jobs. completion tools, getting as much experience as he could because he realized that he had to know the products that he was selling in order to sell to customers. So now he's one of our best sales leaders in the completion and production business in Canada, and I'm proud to say he's a great employee, a great rider, and a great Saskatchewan promoter. So that's it for me. I am willing to take a few questions if you want them. I think John might already have a couple for us here.
I think you might have expected this question. How is the situation in Eastern Canada regarding fracking going to affect the industry?
Interestingly enough, I'm going to Montreal tomorrow. I'm going to speak on behalf of the industry at the Quebec Oil and Gas Conference. I've been told I don't need a flak jacket, but I might bring one anyway. It is difficult. I mean, you look at some of the press of what's happening in New Brunswick and what's happening in Quebec, and anytime you put a moratorium on something and say, no, we're not going to do that, it generally means you don't have a very good understanding of what's actually happening. So, I've got a part of the presentation here that I haven't shown, but I will be showing in Montreal. Really deals with a lot of the science side of the fracking business. About we have a frac fluid that is 100% derived from the food industry. We have just completed 60 wells in the U.S. that did not use any surface water and used all reused water from actually produced water on flowback wells. If you ask somebody in North Dakota, what's your biggest problem? It's getting rid of the produced water that they make with the oil. I mean, the Bakken oil is not just oil. I mean, it's not like you're drilling into an oil tank underground. It comes up in a miscible state with water. You produce 3 to 4 barrels of water for every barrel of oil. So we've got a water supply. But we don't do a very good job of getting that story out. So this is why I'm going down there. This is why I'll be actually chair of PSAC on Wednesday. Is the start of my chairmanship, but it's going to be part of my job this year to try and educate the people of Canada. I mean, even the people of Calgary. There's a large lack of knowledge in Calgary on the oil and gas industry. So most of it's education and advocacy on behalf of the business, because if you hang a $1 billion carrot in front of me, you guys from SRC can relate to this too, but if you hang a $1 billion carrot in front of me and say, if you solve this problem, I'll give you $1 billion, I'll solve the damn problem. And there's no problem that we haven't been able to solve, and a lot of it comes back to the environmental side and whatnot, but we do have the answers on the environmental side. No use of surface water, clean frac fluids, small surface areas, small pads, minimal land disturbance. We do have the answers, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who would know that. I know it's a long
Well, that was good. Why did you move to Regina?
Well, I'll tell you, the mayor of Medicine Hat wasn't very happy about it. It's interesting. Southern Saskatchewan, and why we moved to Regina instead of Estevan. I mean, we did have an office in Estevan, but we've been looking at Medicine Hat for probably 4 or 5 years, really since I became Vice President of Canada, and it just wasn't making any sense. Most of our guys that were living in Medicine Hat, and Jimmy can attest to this, were quite happily going to work every 15 days, do 15 days on, 6 days off, and driving to either southern Saskatchewan or southwest Manitoba, and then they drive back to Medicine Hat to do all the repairs and to live. So it didn't make sense to us fundamentally, and it cost us a lot of digits of dollars to continually do that every couple of weeks. So at the end of the day, we said, you know what, we're gonna have to take the leap, move to Estevan. So that was kind of our thing. We're gonna move to Estevan. And we're talking to people in Estevan. There's a big fear in Estevan that the boom is going to go away again, then we'll be left with a bunch of shops and empty roads, empty houses and whatnot. So coming to Regina was actually quite an easy decision, given the fact that you do have international airport access. There's hotels that aren't full every day of the year. The infrastructure for dealing with mechanical repairs and whatnot is there. And we were lucky enough to find the old Watson tractor facility that the South Country equipment people were moving out of. So we jumped on it, and that was kind of the end of the story. But happy to be here. And it wasn't very popular.
Well, it's very popular here. There are certain TV shows that have been aired on more than one occasion here that talk about the fracking experience in the United States and paint a pretty disturbing sort of picture in terms of the industry. And yet, I know that I've had some conversations with some of your people that this really isn't a proper depiction of what is really going on out there. Do you care to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously Gasland 1 and Gasland 2, or as I call them, my two favorite sitcoms, were very popular. The EPA has actually disproven every single statement that Josh Fox made in both those movies. And they are there to protect the environment. One of the big things that Josh Fox was pushing was the town of Burning Springs. I think it was Pennsylvania, it could have been New York, but in Burning Springs, he said, "Why is the water on fire?" And the locals said, "Doofus, it's called Burning Springs. It's been called Burning Springs for 200 years. The Indians called it Burning Springs." I don't know what the native word is for it, but they didn't get that name from fracking. One of the things that happens whenever you dewater a coal seam, coal's a great filter. So when you dewater coal, you depressurize it. As you depressurize it, the gas it's full of methane gas. The gas can depressurize. It happens in Saskatchewan, North Dakota, Montana as well. I mean, a lot of CDM wells that have stopped being drilled because they were releasing a lot of gas, depressurizing the coal seams, and thus creating gas issues inside the coal. But if you look at the Marcellus and the Utica, which is what is being raised a lot in the Gasland movies, and there's actually a movie called Frack Nation. If you want to see actually kind of the debunking of Gasland, watch Frack Nation, which is a guy by the name of Phelim McIntyre. He's an Irish documentary maker who has absolutely zero interest in the oil and gas industry. He went through and actually talked to the locals that were the silent majority, and found that in fact they're largely in favor of the oil and gas industry being there. Actually, one of the biggest problems that we have right now in the U.S. is the success of the drilling programs in the Marcellus and the Utica, because you're right near the Northeast, the U.S. Northeast, and that's the biggest draw on natural gas in North America. So now you've got the source sitting where they're going to be using it, which is the best situation for everybody. But yeah, I mean, there's, I think one of the funny things was, and I was talking to Rex Murphy. You guys know Rex Murphy from CBC, and he says, these environmentalists, they'll tell you stuff that you really got to check it all. He said, and David Suzuki tells you he's an environmentalist. He won't water the ferns in the CBC building. I water the ferns. But you got to check. You really have to check the source and check the news and check the debunking. There's a lot of debunking sites on that.
Great. Well, John, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. And welcome to Regina.